Thinkwell Shift is a behavior change company that specializes in resource conservation. Located in Halifax, Nova Scotia, they create strategies and programs that encourage people to make lasting changes in their daily lives to conserve resources such as water, energy, and waste. Today's podcast is Ruvi Mugara, the Director of Projects with Thinkwell Shift, who is creating change through choice. Join me next. Hi, Ruvi. Thanks for joining me.
Hi, Maria. Thanks for having me. I'm so excited to be here today.
I know, it's just fantastic how I was reading about your company and you're doing a lot of amazing things around behavioral change. And that's where it
Mhm.
all starts. And tell us, about your commitment to conservation at Think Well Shift.
Sure. So, Thinkwell Shift, like you said, is a behavior change organization that we are in resource conservation, energy efficiency mostly, but we like to, what our motto is making change through choice, which is basically giving people some control over their sustainable habits. It seems like, sustainability is the trend right now. It's been the trend for a little bit. And a lot of people don't know where to even begin. They feel like they don't have control because we talk to people who are like, well, what am I supposed to do when the big organizations are the ones who are doing the most pollution and affecting the climate change and stuff. So people are a little more hesitant about just diving in when they don't have enough information. So we now give people information and we break it down to a point that a regular person like you and I can understand, not like the engineers or like anything high level. Like break it down so they can just understand basic things they can do to be more sustainable. And we give them the choice. We're like, listen, we know, like it seems like it's a lot. There's so much going on. There's so much information being given to you. But let's try something as simple as small behaviors that anyone can do, like turning off lights when you leave a room, taking a shorter shower, turning off the faucet when you brush your teeth while you're just brushing your teeth. Simple things that they can control, right? And then from there, we build into bigger behavior things and then jump into like things that cost money because most people don't want to jump into spending money right away, right? Like,
Yeah.
nobody wants to spend $2,000, $4,000 right away. But if you give them the small steps, the things they can definitely do on their own that are simple, and then once they're happy with that and we celebrate with them, we're like, oh my gosh, you're doing all these things already. That's exciting and excellent. All right, awesome. You've got all this. Your house is energy efficient. You've got insulation in your house. Well, have you ever considered, potentially switching from oil heating to something
Right.
else? Because these are big spenders, and people are
Yeah.
always hesitant to just spend this money without information. If all they hear is, "Oh, it's better for the environment," yeah, but is it good for my pocket though? Right? So we're giving people choice.
And it's those small steps that add up, like you just
Exactly.
said. Now, I'm curious, what led you down to this career path of resource education and what led you to here?
Honestly, it's such a funny story. I just, like I always say, I stumbled into energy efficiency. That's literally my phrase. I didn't know anything about it
Same
when I
here.
joined. I had no idea what it was. Like I used to hear the buzzwords and I'd be like, oh, there's something around sustainability, environmental education, energy efficiency, but I had no history on it. And so when I had my son, which would have been 2017, he was born really early and it was just such a traumatic experience, him being in the NICU. And so I knew I just needed a kind of job that would let me be able to just like literally leave the office and go deal with my son. When we were leaving the NICU and we were leaving the IWK, they did say he would need a lot of care. And so I just knew that I couldn't have a career that would get me stuck, let's say, in a lab. Because prior to that, I used to work in like labs and I used to do working with adults with intellectual disability. And you can't just leave, the house when you're taking care of someone. So I knew that I needed something that was a little more flexible. And so I applied for a job with Thinkwell Shift at that time, which was an entry level job. And it was just more around talking to kids about energy efficiency. And I was like, I like working with kids. Prior to that, I'd worked with the YMCA after school program. So I knew what it was like to be around kids and like, play with them and stuff. So it's like, I could do that. And I applied for it and I got it. And that's how I ended up in this career. My background is environment, like it's not even environmental education. I did bio and psychology in my undergrad. So I'm more of a people person than environmental education.
That is really interesting because so many people in this profession are engineers or they have a technical science type background, mathematical, that type of thing. But there is an industry for in this sector for people like us who, because people need to be educated, people need to learn, and you don't have to have a science degree and an engineering degree to do it. So that's great to hear. So what advice would you give to somebody who is thinking about getting into this industry? Who's not scientifically inclined as much.
I would say whatever your interests are, they fit into this industry. There's so much potential in, like sustainability, whether it's resource conservation, whether it's energy efficiency, whether it's like architecture, whatever you can think of, we have it on the side of the sustainability side. And it's pretty cool because when I talk to people about like green careers, for example, we talk about what are your interests? What do you like to do? If you like being outdoors, have you ever considered something that's in sustainability with outdoor? Like you could be a horticulturalist, for example. If you like computers, have you ever considered like making things that are like the future? Like, so maybe like like how this Google Homes. I'm always like, if you're like really interested in things like that, maybe you can create something that reminds people, hey, don't forget to turn off the lights or whatever.
Yeah.
There's now like smart thermostats, stuff like that. So anything you are interested in can somehow fit into this world.
Great to hear. Thinkwell Shift, you do a lot of work within schools and with
hmm
school children talking to youth. And how's that been working out as you educate them to climate change?
It's pretty awesome. Kids are fantastic. Kids have a whole different perspective on life that I wish adults could just keep. Like, I remember being a child and just being excited about everything. And then, as you age and adulthood kicks in and all the stresses of adulthood kick in, we like let go of that like childlike free spirit and we get tainted, right? But kids are just so free, and so speaking to them about such important topics is necessary because they get it. I wish someone had talked to me about stuff like this when I was younger, because then I would have made very different choices in my, as I was like in my teens and my young adult life. But I didn't know any better. So,
Well,
imagine how many people
yeah.
could have known, right?
Well, their enthusiasm is contagious as well.
Exactly.
They take it
Yeah.
home to their parents or their, people in their families, and they share what they just learned, and they've got that enthusiasm that,
Mhm.
teach kids have a lot to teach people. They really do.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So behavioral change. It's
Mhm.
it's all about that, and I guess there's some sort of science behind that. But what does behavioral change look like in terms of making that shift?
It's like I mentioned a little earlier, it's all about giving them a small step at a time and like giving people gradual growth. You don't want to just dump all this information onto someone. It's too much. Like the world is so, like I say it all the time to all my friends and coworkers, like we now live in a world that has way too much information. Literally at the click of a button, you have all this information. There's Wikipedia, there's Google, there's all this stuff that's just throwing information at you. You turn on the TV, on the news, there's more information being thrown at you, and there's just um like an overload of information for people. So when we are trying to like give people that behavior change around sustainability, we don't want to overload them with information around it. Like we're not giving them the like, high grade star level of this is where you need to be right away. We're not talking about any of that, right? We're starting right at the bottom, like I said, about like, okay, do you take shorter showers? Have you ever considered it? And then we give them other facts they wouldn't know. things like, oh, did you know that if you were boiling water, if you put the lid on the pot, it actually boils the water faster, meaning that you reduce the amount of time that your stove is on and all this stuff.
Really? I
Like
never knew that.
yeah, I know it's a pretty interesting fact. But we give that to people so that they can start gradually learning more and more and more and be more receptive to this information. Because if you give them overload, that's just like someone's gonna check out. Like
Yeah,
eventually they're gonna be like, I this is too much for me.
that's not for
And
me.
also
Yeah.
we live in a microwave society that's like everything has to be done right now. So people kind of like freak out when it's like, oh my gosh, you telling me I have like 10 months to do all this stuff? It's too
Yeah.
much. So like we try to like gradually give them like information.
I'm just curious, and I just thought of this now. Have you noticed anything with COVID with people's behavioral patterns in
Yes.
relation to, climate and sustainability?
Yes, one of the hardest things we've had to deal with is like because we go into people's homes a lot, is people's openness to having a stranger in the house is it's definitely
They're
harder
more
now.
nervous or
Yeah, people are more nervous, even though like we now live with COVID. People are still a little more nervous. I think COVID definitely was a terrifying experience for everyone, and so people are a little more anxious around like a consultation in their home, for example. It's like, well, can we do it virtually? Sure, but I can't really see your house virtually, so it would be nice if I could come there. So I think there's a little more anxiety. So it's just getting people to like break that barrier and let them know we can offer different options. People can wear masks. If you're not feeling well, we won't come in. If we're not feeling well, we won't come in. We do a check-in call the day before. We text you on our way. We offer all these things to just make people a little more um
at
like
ease.
less anxious when we show
Yeah,
up. Yeah.
exactly. What is next for your company? What projects do you have on the horizon?
I mean, I think Thinkwell Shift is such an exciting organization. We're a small company and we are growing, and I think we really just want to continue to do what we do, but across the country. Because right
Mhm.
now we're very Nova Scotia focused because we are a small company. We have less than 25 staff, and so I think as we grow and like the name becomes more popular, we're hoping to put it across the country and just share what we know in places like Alberta and BC, and also collaborate with different organizations across the country that are doing similar things. I think that is the number one thing is just we want to be Canada wide.
Yeah, and that totally support that idea. And I know that you guys have a blog as well and a podcast that
Hmm.
you do it with children. And we'll put that link up so people can check out the podcast and which is really fun to listen to. It's with kids, so we'll
Yeah.
definitely give that a plug. Ruby, thank you so much for joining me today. It really is the little things that add up. It's so
Hmm.
important for us all to do. And wishing you guys all the best as you spread the word across Canada. And I'm going to help as much as I can in my own little way as well. So
Thank
take
you so
care.
much, Maria. This was fun.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Change through choice. It's in all of us to do this. Take shorter showers, do what we can, flip off the light switches when we're not in the room, that kind of thing. It's all on the path to climate change and to being sustainable. I want to thank Ruvi for joining me today and join me next time. And remember to subscribe or share this podcast with your friends and family or colleagues, what have you. I'm Maria McGowan with Reimagined Energy. Thanks for joining me today.